It's July the 23rd, 2010. I'm Mike Benedetti, Brendan Melican here at the Southwestern Industrial Park.
Welcome. Beautiful down here, huh?
Yeah, we're here on Armory Street.
Future of Worcester development.
Yeah, so this is all brownfields or otherwise polluted and vacant industrial property. There is some activity. There are some businesses and things in through here. Reports I read said that there were about 100 jobs in throughout this 11-acre-ish area. How are you doing this week, Brendan?
Excellent. Yourself?
Great. We have a ton of stuff to talk about this week. We're going to talk about the Southwestern Industrial Park, and we're going to talk about a lot of other things too. I want to talk about a couple things coming up this weekend. George Street Challenge is coming up this weekend. You ever do the George Street Challenge?
I've never done the George Street Challenge, although Holmes Wilson has claimed on a couple different occasions that I won the George Street Challenge, although I've never actually partook.
Well, this is a thing where people ride bikes up a super steep street downtown where world cycling champion Major Taylor apparently used to train. And I think when Jacob Berendez was on this show one time, long ago, he made the point about the George Street Challenge that there are two kinds of people on bikes that you see around. Both of them legitimate, great kinds of people. One is people in spandex, right. One is people in jeans. And he felt like the George Street was almost exclusively people wearing like spandex racing stuff, and he wanted like some jeans wearing kids from the street out there. So every year I always think I'm going to train and do it, and then every year it comes upon me before I even realize
I know
it.
the event's been going on forever, but it seems like the last 2 years it's getting more more ground level sort of talk about it actually happening. There's more journalists actually partaking in it, so they're writing about their own experiences in it and what have you, and you know, whether even if it's informally on Facebook and what have you, it seems like people get more and more excited about it now.
Well, what better event could there be?
It's an awesome event. You got the Arms of Abbey right next door to load up on beer right beforehand.
That would be the thing to work drinking in there somehow.
Halfway up.
Also, this weekend they're doing a Taming of the Shrew in Green Hill Park.
An actual shrew?
They're doing the Shakespeare play.
Oh.
I think I'm going to go if I can figure out a time to go out there. I haven't probably go by myself, but I'm looking forward to it. Do you know Joe Finnerl?
I think so.
Joe Finnerl, my man Joe Finnerl is in this. I was just talking to him the other day about it. He's just people will see Joe walking around town. He's got white hair, oftentimes a big white beard. He wears like a Tilly hat, like one of those tan hats with a brim, walking stick usually.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
That's
yes.
Joe Finnerl, thespian of many years, famous of stage and screen. Old-time Worcester guy.
Well-known Worcester walker.
Great man. Will get you totally trashed if you catch him in the right place at the right time. And he's going to be in Taming of the Shrew. So I'm really hoping to be able to get out to see that. Also this weekend, the triumphant return of Billy Blue to Worcester. Saturday, barbecue. There's nobody who rocks the punk crowd with traditional blues like Billy Blue. And I'm definitely going to that on Saturday. And you know where that is and when that is if you need to go. We got stuff going on this week with pit bulls. We got stuff going on this week with the PIP. We got stuff going on this week with the Tea Party. We got stuff going on this week with newsletters. We got this stuff going on this week with Brendan Melican. Brendan, we should mention that Gary Rosen said in Worcester Magazine this week that he all but said that you're running for city council next year.
I don't have any plans to do that.
Congratulations.
Thank you for the nomination. I accept your nomination. That's yeah. Well, hey, I mean, it makes for good material.
And also in political news this week, there was a Tea Party event on Saturday in Lincoln Square, protesting Senator Scott Brown over what?
Well, it was Saturday, and there's nothing else to do.
He made some vote on something. I actually totally have not had enough coffee today. From my feelings, you should protest almost every congressman over almost every vote they make. But they were protesting Brown over something they were disappointed by. And
have you ever seen the Ken Burns documentary on Congress? You know, Ken Burns.
No, did he do a documentary on
Congress?
Even more boring than Congress normally.
He made it even more boring, but I mean, he reinforced what has always been a similar point that you just made, that since the start of Congress as a body has always had like a roughly 13% approval rating. But if you ask anybody in the country at any given time what they think of their own congressman, you're likely to find a 64% approval rating for their individual congressman.
Yeah.
It's just, and that's the way it's supposed to work, right? I mean, everyone hates Congress, but everyone loves their congressman.
Right. Because it's their congressman's job to make them like them.
Right.
And it's no other. Nancy Pelosi does not care what a person in Worcester thinks of Nancy Pelosi.
And I'm not supposed to understand what Nancy Pelosi is up to. It's not supposed to make any sense to me. That's somewhere else.
Do you want to walk a little bit?
Sure.
All right. This is Armory Street. This is the South Worcester Industrial Park.
Those are, hey, chocolate milk and sandwiches.
There it is. Wow, I wonder if somebody's doing a, I don't know. I can't even guess what this is.
It's
Nobody's feeding the homeless out here.
chocolate milk and sandwiches covered in bits.
As we're gonna talk a lot about this development here in a second. Should also talk about that at this Tea Party thing. According to YouTube, at least, somebody attempted to burn a flag at the event. Not a Tea Partier, but someone who was there to talk with the Tea Partiers, I guess. We'll link to this YouTube. Actually, I think it's somebody that we know, but we're not gonna say any more than that. So interesting excitement over the weekend in Worcester, political whatevering. The city is actually moving ahead with this pit bull thing, Brendan Melican.
Yes, they are.
The city council, I guess, unanimously, tentatively approved this. They're going to send it to subcommittee and then bring it back out for a council vote. This is a thing which I think we're totally against, which would add additional regulations to people who had pit bulls and pit bull-like dogs. If you wonder how can you define something so imprecise as a dog breed, the answer is there's a big laundry list of stuff that would make your dog fall under this category. So tons of pit bulls, tons of terriers, tons of other dogs that would fall under
this. On a
this.
personal note, I mean, that's my situation, right? I have a dog that is just an old dog waiting to die. He is officially, as far as the city of Worcester is concerned, a pit bull. He couldn't be any further from a pit bull, but when he was at a shelter, before I picked him up, that's what they had him labeled as. As he's gotten older, it's become clear that that's not what he is, but he'll forever be known. He'll go to his grave as a pit bull.
He's tarred with that name.
And he's a lovely animal. He's never eaten it. Well, he ate one child, but other than that one child that he ate, it was totally the kid's fault. He's never attacked anybody.
Well, let me tell you,
loving little animal.
oftentimes, Brendan, when the city council is poised to do something stupid,
Wait, I'm sorry. There's a really nice car on top of the school bus over there before you get too far. Can you see that?
Yeah, this is a feature called "You Can't See It, But We Can."
Oh, well, you can get
right there.
Let's keep walking.
Okay. But oftentimes I just sort of feel like we should throw up our hands and say, you could write to the city council, but the city council is not going to think about this. Amazingly, the Worcester Animal Rescue League made a big stink about this ordinance the last couple days, this proposed ordinance. And they're saying that they're going to, I guess they would stop accepting strays and impounded dogs from Worcester if Worcester passed this. I think part of the fear here is that Boston did an ordinance like this a couple years ago, and the statistics I have seen don't give any clear evidence that this did anything to prevent dog attacks, but apparently what this did do is it made a ton of people drop their pit bulls off at animal shelters. So I think that potentially you will have this surge of strays and people's dogs getting turned into the Animal Rescue League, and I guess they don't want to see this happen.
Sure, and I mean, I think it's a valid concern of the Animal Rescue League. It's not like they're a super well-funded organization, and any extra burden that's placed on them by the city. It's interesting, right? I mean, the city's always complaining about unfunded mandates coming from the federal government. I mean, in the case of this, the Animal Rescue League, it's something very similar. They're going to be left with the burden of whatever the outcome of this decision is. Can you? Yeah.
What is this? Yeah, it's like a...
It's a nice car up there.
Is that a Chevy? I don't know anything about cars. It's white. It's like it's a white car, one of those famous old white cars. That must be the Brooks Brothers used car lot.
Yeah, Brooks Brothers used car lot.
So I guess you know why I'm against this, Brendan? I think that there's two separate but related issues here. One is, should the city target pit bulls? And the second issue is this actually going to do anything? I think the answer to both of these is no.
Right.
I think the city shouldn't target pit bulls because I don't think the problem is breeds of dog. I think the problem is dog owners who are raising dogs to be hostile,
Sure.
dog owners who are raising dogs to fight. Someone who's going to be an irresponsible dog owner and wants a dog to look like a tough guy, they're getting a pit bull these days, right? And they take that pit bull, which could be a great dog, and they turn it into something dangerous, and then the dog attacks somebody. If you make it inconvenient to own a pit bull, and these guys actually follow the law enough that they feel it, then they just go ahead and get a Rottweiler, and they make a Rottweiler into a dangerous dog. Meanwhile, all the responsible pit bull owners are just victimized by having to comply with all this nonsense.
I'm waiting till we get to the day where the streets are full of ferocious Lhasa Apsos. They're just running around mauling people's ankles.
It could happen. The other issue is this going to do anything? I think the answer is no. And this issue I think is mostly a statistical argument. In Boston, I don't think there's any good evidence that this did anything.
Right.
In Worcester, this is mainly, like, the main upshot of this is that pit bull owners would have to muzzle, they'd have to put like a catcher's mask looking thing on their dog in public, off the property. Trouble is, pit bulls responsible for a minority of dog attacks in Worcester, if you believe the stats. Dog attacks off of the owner's property, a teeny minority. So basically, you're saying we're going to inconvenience all legitimate pit bull and pit bull-like dog owners in exchange for possibly affecting a minority of dog attacks.
It's just a great example of one of those issues where conventional wisdom doesn't in any way, shape, or form match up with reality. But it's nearly impossible, once people have something in their head as truth, it's nearly impossible to shake it free. And this is just another great example of that. You know, the statistics that are out there, you and I were talking earlier, that the numbers that are getting floated around are indicating what, that there's like 200 pit bulls in the city of Worcester. You could probably find 200 pit bulls on just one street in Worcester if you look in the right neighborhood.
I saw 20 dogs who would be covered by this ordinance on Bell Hill one Sunday night as I was walking around.
So the bite statistics might actually, the raw numbers for bite statistics might actually be valid, but the number that they're working with for the overall number of pit bulls in the city is invalid. So that the percentage of dog bites relative to the number of pit bulls should be much lower than what we're actually seeing.
That for all we know, pit bulls are responsible for a quarter of dog attacks, and they're also a quarter of dogs, and people just lie about the breed of their dog.
Or don't get them registered, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly an argument that there may be issues in the way that we handle registrations and licensing for dogs, but for someone to make the claim that pit bulls are more violent or more dangerous than any other breed is laughable, and it's been shown to be, you know, an absurd notion nationally and locally.
Well, Bill Eddy, Councilor Bill Eddy, who's been the big visionary behind this nonsense, has been throwing a lot of statistics around. People have written to Barbara Haller, who's the city councilor who's in charge of the public safety committee. You know, walk out here to the street, and asked Barbara, you know, like, let's look. What are the stats? Like, give us some actual stats on this. And she said, I don't have the stats. So by now that this has become a big deal, she may have the stats, and maybe we'll find out what's really going on. I don't want to lean too heavily on those without actually knowing.
But the most important thing is that we've got, like you said earlier, we've got examples of this elsewhere, Boston being probably the best and closest example, and it's just done nothing because we all know that the majority of dog bites take place on private property, and that's the one place where you can't enforce these kinds of regulations.
Here's a brown field, Brendan, and look at it.
It is brown.
It is brown, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be able to control what happens on private property. The argument that this is to protect law enforcement, equally invalid, because, you know, where are police officers engaging with dogs on the side of the road where they're problematic? The argument has always been that they're walking into homes where there are dangerous dogs, and in those homes the dogs aren't going to be muzzled. So there's really no even public safety component in terms of making law enforcement safer. The whole thing just seems rather poorly thought out. And again, it's not to say that there couldn't be, we couldn't do a better job of regulating dogs in the city. Just this isn't the way to do it.
This is making people feel better, and it's not actually making anybody safer.
It's just not making anybody safer.
Being a pain in people's ass. Well, like I was going to say, sometimes it feels like you can't fight City Hall on this stuff. The fact that the Animal Rescue League has stepped up and righteously said this is nonsense means that the City Council's mind is open. Kate Toomey today posting on Facebook, give me your feedback. Give these people your feedback. Tell them, do not do this. Do not waste people's time. Do not make everybody's pit bull walk around with a catcher's mask on.
And if you are in favor of it, it would be great to, you know, I keep seeing comments on the Telegram whenever they cover the issue. People just saying how the dogs are dangerous, they all need to be killed. Just back that up with something. You know, I'm personally totally open to learning something new that I don't know about pit bulls and finding out that they are in fact the most ferocious animals on the planet, but just use something resembling actual statistics to back that up. So there's got to be some data out there. If you've come to the conclusion that these animals all need to be destroyed, you have to start with something realistic, more than just a notion or something that you heard on TV, because reality doesn't seem to match up with the opinions of those folks.
Brendan, did you see that the New York Times company's revenue is up for the quarter?
How are we supposed to deal with that? We've been making fun of their revenue stream for the last 3 years.
I know, it kind of blows our mind. The New England Media Group, which includes the Globe and the Telegram and Gazette, their revenue's down, but their circulation's up.
And the paywall hasn't even been put up yet.
The paywall hasn't been put up, so that will solve the circulation problem. But yeah, hey, there you go. I mean, I don't know what's going on. It'll be interesting to see the next quarter and see if this is a momentary, like it couldn't fall below a certain level because it would have been a negative number, or if this is a actual rebound. Maybe somebody's doing something smart. I hope so. Good job, guys. Here we are at the South of Worcester Industrial Park. Brendan Melican. Do you want to hold the? Do you want to hold the camera and I can hold the notebook?
I do. I want to point out that there's yet another car that you probably can't see on top of
There's a car on top of a thing over there. Yeah. One thing you need to do is you need to talk to it loud from behind because it's a very directional mic.
I don't want anyone to hear me.
This is the South Worcester Industrial Park. It's either 11 acres or 68 acres, depending on the story that you read. I have read 16 years of Telegram and Gazette articles about this place to bring you
all last night
what we understand about this. I don't think anybody who writes for the public understands exactly what's going on here, based on my reading. So we're in that number, so we're going to talk about it too. It's roughly bounded by Canterbury, Gardner, and Southgate streets. It used to be Standard Foundry was out here. Employed a couple hundred people, 200, 300, 400 people, I don't know. There used to be cannonball manufacturing here back in the day. There used to be a military barracks here. I guess armory.
They made cannonballs here?
They used to make cannonballs.
All roads lead to Worcester.
All roads lead. They used to make everything in Worcester, you know. In 1994, the plan was announced. Quote from the article. They talked to people in the article who said, South Worcester has experienced a long history of bad treatment from companies and broken promises of City Hall. They're hoping that pattern can be changed. I think, unfortunately, we'll find out, maybe not. 1995. 1995, there was legislation creating a Central Massachusetts Economic Development Authority, which was a thing to get money together to clean up polluted industrial properties. Actually creating this thing was signed at this site, and the initial bill included $1 million for fixing the sidewalks and the roads in this area. This is 1995. Peter Blute, then congressman, not yet disgraced ex-congressman, Peter Blute was at that signing. 1997, the council decides to acquire a 67,000 square foot section of this thing. The Telegram and Gazette editorializing that the primary Worcester business problem was a lack of buildable space. That some people estimates in the last 15 years that there's $300 million of property in the city that you can't build on because it's got old buildings and the ground is full of poison.
Mike, one more thing that people can't see that they should. Right where my finger is, that is a tree growing out of the roof of that building. So while we can't do lots of things down here, like meaningful development, we can grow trees on the roof of dilapidated old buildings.
Nature will not be denied. In 1997, Maritza Cruz was running for District 4 city councilor. I don't know if it was against Barbara Haller or against Janice Nato in 1997. But she was complaining about stagnation on this project as part of what she was saying for her campaign. In 1997. In 2002, the city had an RFP for a parcel on this area here. There were no responses. Nobody wanted to get involved with this. This is a sweeter background.
Yeah, it's a nice background.
This would be a cooler background. We should do this thing where I walk towards the camera as I speak, except we can't cut. So the City Council developed a special economic development zone which included part of this property. They spent $712,000 lowering part of Southgate Street to beneath a bridge. In 2003, there was temporarily talk of putting a shopping development in this area here. In 2004, they estimated that fewer than 100 people were employed in this sort of area around here. And we do see some trucks and some little warehouses and things.
Sure, we've got the railroad, Providence, Worcester, right behind us over there.
Whenever people drive down this track, they temporarily count them as being employed, and then when they drive out, they're no longer working in the economic development.
Just got to catch them all at once. That's the key.
At the end of 2007, they had a second RFP. What is RFP, Brendan Milliken?
Request for proposal.
You can point at your own hand.
Request for proposal.
Okay, and that means basically, do you want to buy this? In the past, Bill Randall's been talking about how there was an abutter who wanted to buy part of this, and we couldn't figure out what he was talking about. In fact, this is true. Bill Randall doesn't let you down. Absolute Machine wanted to pay $50 grand for a, I guess, 50,000 square foot section here.
That would be Absolute Machine right over here, where you've got some activity.
Absolute. And you've seen their vodka ads, but their machine business also doing very well.
Stellar.
So they want to spend 50 grand to buy this, to expand. In 2007, they said, we'll give you 50 grand. On the other hand, Pharmasphere LLC said, we'll give you $1. And the city said, awesome. We want to sell it to you, Pharmasphere. According to the newspapers, Pharmasphere won the RFP, quote, because it proposed to move forward quickly. And the article said construction could begin in late March of 2008 on a Pharmasphere thing. Pharmasphere was going to do a $5.5 million facility, 50,000 square feet, employing 40 people. They were going to build, and we talked about it on the show when this came down the line, not because we knew anything about this fiasco or that we cared, that they were going to do an industrial periwinkle grow house.
They're going to be working on pharmaceuticals from plants.
Pharmaceuticals from plants.
And if I remember what got us interested in the story was, I think Scott Zobak wrote this one, but it was regarding one of the CX somethings for the organization. His background was in hydroponics up in Canada, and he was well known within the marijuana growing industry in Canada for producing hydroponics that put off such low energy that it was mostly undetectable from law enforcement aircraft that was looking for heat signatures for grow houses, which is nice. I mean, I guess if we look at that from a local perspective, then we would be seeing an energy efficient periwinkle grow or house down here.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, well, there's a lot of greeny stuff around all of the rhetoric around Pharmasphere. In February of 2008, the city manager recommended that the city council expedite city and state approvals for this and similar sites. In June of 2009, nothing had been built here yet. They were talking about there being money troubles at Pharmasphere, so that they couldn't start the project right away, which now had gone from $5.5 million and 40 people to $17.5 million and 60 people.
They had started the project, though. There's a porta potty right over here. That is, so there was some movement in terms of development.
There weren't any periwinkles in that thing of chocolate milks, were there?
No periwinkles.
Periwinkle sandwiches, maybe?
Nope.
In July of last year, the city loaned Pharmasphere $2.5 million.
Nice.
Pharmasphere said that the project was going to be financed. Here's how the project was going to be financed. $6.5 million of equity from Quarry Hill Partners. That's like actual money of real people. $4.9 million for the sale of federal tax credits. I don't know what that means, the sale of federal tax credits.
Well, tax credits are sellable, so you can.
Oh.
They get tax credits for the development project, and they were able to actually sell those to people who were looking for tax credits to apply to their own
because
businesses.
They wouldn't actually owe $4.9 million
right.
of taxes themselves, but they could find people who owed that much taxes
and sell them to them. Yeah.
Okay. $3 million of Massachusetts Development Financial Agency bonds, plus the $2.5 million loan from the city.
And a sprinkling of fairy dust.
A sprinkling of fairy dust. So we're talking about way less than half of this is private money for this Pharmasphere industrial periwinkle grow house. In October of 2009, there was a demolishment. The hand of God smote. I don't know if this property was the property that smote or not. Jeff Barnard, I'm sure, has.
Well, it looks like somebody's been driving around down here, so I'm going to guess it's this area here.
People are just doing burnouts for summer nationals down here.
Practice field.
They're mudding.
That's what would be perfect down here. We could get trucks like monster trucks.
We could have a truck rally.
Like a monster truck rally down here.
I don't know if this is clean or not yet. I guess it probably is.
Do you need clean dirt for monster trucks?
You could, if you can't build a factory on the thing. I don't think you can do a monster truck rally in a brownfield, can you?
I don't see why not.
It's so intense, your skin will be glowing for years. Get the lead out, bring the chromium in. In 2009 also, October 2009 also, federal recovery funds of $3.8 million went to this property. There's been a ton of money invested in this property over the years in cleaning it up and lowering the street and putting in roads and sidewalks, demolishing stuff. In December of 2009, the planning board approved the site. Now had grown to be a $16.9 million, had dropped down $600,000 to be a $16.9 million 60-job project. And currently, what?
Well, currently it's this.
There was a terms of conveyance that was signed with Pharmasphere in like 2008, which was supposed to get the property transferred by September 1st of 2009. The terms of conveyance will expire on September 1st of this year, which I think means that Pharmasphere is out of it in like a month.
Where does that leave us, Mike?
On Armory Street.
Oh.
There's a SEC filing, a recent SEC filing, because Pharmasphere. This is where I'm going to get confused because I didn't write this down. There's a company called Converted Organics, which seems to have this thing called TerraSphere and this thing called Pharmasphere.
Mm-hmm.
And Pharmasphere and Converted Organics has to like file SEC filings.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an because they're on the NASDAQ.
Right.
And I think that they had an SEC filing from this year of just sort of future whateverings, and they talked about some stuff that they've done in the past and stuff they're going to do this year. They don't talk about anything in Worcester in this SEC filing. I don't know anything about finance to know if this means anything or not. Yeah, Converted Organics / Pharmasphere / TerraSphere. So one angle on this is to complain that like, well, what are these guys doing? Are they just using this property to like get themselves, I don't even know if this loan money, if they can use this for non-Pharmasphere stuff. Who knows what's going on? Are they just doing this to like, you know, make themselves look good? Are they having problems because the economy has been bad and it's hard to raise? It seems like it seems like most of the money is public money though.
It seems just as long as they stay in Worcester, they'll have no problem raising money because the city's just going to keep writing them checks.
I think the real issue is just like, well, so I can do one thing. I can say to a man with a hammer, what time is it by the way? 26
minutes.
Okay, to the man with the hammer, everything looks like a nail. My hammer is knowing something about the journalism industry. Reading 16 years of articles about this, the salient fact we've learned today is that redeveloping this property is going to take a generation, right? I mean, it's been 16 years since they started the process. It's been 16 years of the same article over and over in the Telegram and Gazette saying this neighborhood and this property is run down and in trouble, but like a new day is dawning. And in fact, it's really the salient fact is it's going to take a generation. It's going to maybe take another 10 or 15 years at this rate for there to be anything substantial build down in here. And none of these articles hint at this. So I feel like the Telegram Gazette has hired a ton of rubes over the years to write these articles because none of them like get that it's not going to be just like 18 months from now this is going to happen.
Maybe the point, the take-home message is we have to get back to what we're good at, and in this case it'd be manufacturing cannonballs.
Maybe so. I'll take the camera back from you, Brendan. Sorry for grandstanding.
No, that's fine.
What is your Well,
you know, the sad thing is it's obviously a great piece of property, right? I mean, it's not like this is, I mean, it is a wasteland, but it's a wasteland in the center of the city. I mean, you would think that people would be chomping at the bit to get a hold of a developable parcel like this, and it just seems more of a tragedy that this has been tied up for, as you said, you know, what, 15 years now, if not longer, with no actual movement. And yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's I don't know, maybe we just picked the wrong path to march down in terms of dealing with Pharmasphere. That will play itself out in the long term. But in the short term, you know, it's probably time to start thinking about what else we can do down here and how else we can spin this property on developers who actually have an interest in existing.
Well, we should thank 508 contributing producer Nicole Apostola for a ton of research and a ton of thoughts on this. We, of course, totally improvised this, so Nicole is not endorsing anything that we're saying here, but she's been super helpful, as always, in helping us work on the show. And all the people who write us stuff on Facebook or at pieandcoffee@gmail.com or call the hotline are like super helpful in us trying to figure out A, what's cool in Worcester or what could be fun, and B, like what the heck is going on with the rest of Worcester. We're working on figuring that one out.
I've got no ideas.
Brendan.
Mike.
I'll talk to you next week.
It's a pleasure, sir. You get a ride home?
Let's walk back to the car.
All right.